We are going to discuss box plots and quartiles and all that good stuff. And if you do not know how to put a list into your calculator, you absolutely need to stop right now and go figure it out. Or watch one of my other videos because this whole section is all going to depend on lists. The 5-number summary is buried in your calculator in a good way, and it makes everything so much faster. Okay, so to start off, we are going to talk about what's a quartile? What is a 5-number summary? So we talked about the median in the last video. That was right in the middle. And so you'll see that word right here. We're talking about the median again. But we have 5 numbers altogether. So let me back up for a second. A quartile comes from the root word like quarter, has to do with 4. So what we're going to be doing to make a box plot is we are going to be taking our data and we're going to be splitting it into 4 chunks. And no, that wasn't it. Look at how I did that and I did it wrong. Okay, I split it. So do you see what I did? I wrote 4 lines, but I only made 3 chunks. So problem, fix it with an eraser. Here we go, try it again. 5 chunks means we have a middle and the 2 ends, and then we cut each half in half. 4 chunks all together, 5 lines. That's exactly what the 5-number summary is all about. We're going to take our data, we're going to cut it in the middle. That's our median. So here's our median. I'm going to call it Q, or I'll call it the median because I can write that pretty easily. We're going to have our smallest number. We're going to have our biggest number. So we have our minimum and our maximum. And then quartile 1, the median is also known as quartile 2. It doesn't matter what you call it, but since we already have called it the median, we can go with that. And then quartile 3. So it's like we start at the smallest, then we go to the first quarter, halftime, middle, third quarter, and then the max, the end. So yeah, that's where all the names come from. That's why we have 5 numbers. And so quartiles are actually percentiles. We're going to talk about percentiles here in a little bit later, but think about quarters and money. Well, obviously, if I said quarters, you're thinking about money. Quartile, 1 quarter is 25. Quartile 1 is the 25th percent. Quartile 3, 3 quarters is the 75th percentile. So the median halfway through, the median is the 50th percentile because it's halfway through. Okay. That's just the vocabulary at the beginning. It has a definition of median, but we already know what median means. And so now that we know what all the words are that we're going to be using, now we're going to find them. And so here is how to find the 5-number summary if you're doing it by hand. So let's just do it by hand because you never really appreciate how quick a shortcut is until you see how long it is to do without the shortcut. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to arrange the data from smallest to largest. And so looking at this data here from the ice cream plant, I'm just going to rewrite the numbers. So we did this in the last video when we were doing the median. We had to write them in number order. So we have 2 10s. That's it for the teens. So then we have 22, 24. I mean, they're practically in number order, but we have this 26 over here. Then I have a 30. 1, 2, 3, 4 32s. You have to write them all because we need all of our data values in our list. And then 34, 35. Okay, so the first thing we did step 1, arrange from smallest to largest. Now identify the maximum and the minimum. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of keep track over here for my 5-number summary. Minimum, Q1, median, Q3, because the median, you could put Q2 for the median, but then after the median is Q3, and then the maximum. So these are the 5 numbers we want for our answer. Minimum and maximum, once they're in number order, minimum and maximum are easy to find because we have the smallest number and the biggest number. Okay, next up, it says to find the median or Q2. So how many do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm going to go similar to the last 6 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that puts my median halfway between 30 and 32, which is 31. If it's hard, if you can't do it off the top of your head, because like I said in the last video, some of the numbers are a little farther apart, it's harder to do, or they might have decimals, then just add them up and divide by 2. All right, now the last thing to find Q1 and Q2. Well, Q1 is halfway between the start and the middle because it's that quarter mark. So I just have to find the median of the first half. So looking at only these numbers underlined in green, of those numbers, what's in the middle? Well, there's 6 numbers, so I need 3 on each side. So it's going to be halfway between 22 and 24. So the first quartile is 23. All right, repeat. Now I want quartile 3, which is going to be the half of the second half, 3/4 of the way in. And so I look at those numbers. I want halfway of those 6 numbers. That means I need 3 on the left, 3 on the right here. And so you'll notice so many 32s. The 32 is on each side of it. So 32 is Q3. If that didn't make sense, or you're like, that was actually so easy, I didn't even think of it, like, how did you come up with that? It's the same. You add them up. 32 plus 32 divided by 2, 64 divided by 2. It equals 32. So you can do the math on it, absolutely, or you can just kind of feel your way through it if it pops into your head. Okay, not terrible to find the 5-number summary, but there's always got to be a faster way. What if you put the numbers? Have you ever done this where you're like writing the numbers in number order and then you forgot like the second number and you have to erase everything and start over? So there's definitely like some operator error kind of mistakes that could be made. And so 5-number summary on your calculator is a lot easier. So what I'm going to do, and I'll just do it number 2 in the calculator, I'm going to put everything, that's L, everything in L1. So I go to my calculator, I go to data, clear anything that I don't want. So if you hit data a second time, you probably accidentally done this. I accidentally do it all the time. If you accidentally hit data twice in a row, then it says like clear L1, clear L2. And so we could just clear the data that we don't want. And I'm going to type all of this into L1. So I have 6, 33, 9, 31. These are definitely not in number order, but that's absolutely okay because the calculator doesn't care. So this would definitely be a pain to start off with if I was to write it in number order. Okay, so I have all my numbers in there. There's 11 numbers in this sample, and I'm going to go to stat, 1 variable stats. We're doing 1 variable stats until like chapter 12. Like it's going to be 1 variable stats for a long time, and when it changes, you will absolutely know. So we're going to do 1 variable stats. Now, because I just made the last video, I'm on a frequency table right now. You might still be on a frequency table. You might have done homework in between. And so anyways, you want to make sure that your calculator says data L1 and frequency ONE, want just the number 1, no else, because there's no frequency happening here. Every number appears 1 time. So there's no frequency. We want to tell it every number appears 1 time. And then we hit calculate. Now on mine, if I go down, using the joystick, go down, 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 it's going to take me, what I need is at the very bottom. So since I'm already at number 1 and equals 11, I can actually hit up, and that will take me really quickly to the numbers for the 5-number summary. And so for me, it's number 7 on my list. It might be different on, if you have a graphing calculator, it might be different numbers. But you just want to scroll until you see these numbers or these words, and they'll appear in this order. So you'll be able to just write down the numbers really easily. We didn't need to do anything in number order. We didn't need to do any counting. In fact, it takes longer to write out all those words than it does to actually write the numbers. Okay, so I see that my minimum is 6, Q1 is 11, median is 20, Q3 is 26, and my maximum is 33. That's it, 5-number summary done. Now we're going to do stuff with the 5-number summary. We're going to make a box plot in a minute, but that is just a lot of things that involve counting and rewriting numbers. That can be lots of opportunity to make some little silly mistakes. And if you use your calculator, you generally make less mistakes. Okay, down here we have a frequency table. Oh goodness, I don't even know how many numbers are on this list. I guess I could add up the frequency. But my point is, I don't want to write out this list because it looks like it has a lot of numbers in it. But it may be 20. I'm just guessing right now, but I definitely want to use my calculator for this one. So go back to your data, clear, get it all fresh, and we're going to put the value just like we did before. The data value is always L1 and the frequency is L2. Now, some of you, especially my graphing calculator friends out there, it's so easy, you might have already done this, to accidentally like completely delete L2 and yours goes from like L1 to L3. That's not a problem. You just have to make note of what your lists are in on your notes and then use that in your calculations. I do it all the time with my graphing calculator. Okay, so I'm going to enter in my L1 first, my values. So I'm just going to type that first list in all the way down to 12. Oops, and I messed up everything. So I hit the plus sign accidentally. So everything stayed there. So I needed to delete it and start over. 12. Okay, so it looks like there's 9 lines of data or 9 lines in the frequency table. So I'm going to go over. Now, I didn't mention this last time we did frequency, but the numbers have to stay together. So here, 1 occurs 3 times. We're going to tell our calculator to look at the L1 and the frequency appears in the L2. So they have to go together. So as you're typing them in, if you skipped anything accidentally in the L1, just kind of double check visually that the 3 goes next to the 1 and the 3 goes next to the 3 and the 1 goes next to the 4 and so forth as you're writing out your list. If you end up with 2 lists that are uneven, that means you missed a letter, you missed a number in one of the columns and you'll just have to double check which one's missing. Okay, I got my frequency table in. I'm going to go to stat, 1 variable stats. This time I have the data in L1 and the frequency in L2. Got to make sure to mark that on my calculator, hit calculate. I can see, oh, it says n equals 19. So I was pretty close with my guess of 20. I definitely don't want to be writing out 19 numbers, finding the middle of it, putting them in number order, all that good stuff. So I'm going to scroll up because everything I want is at the very bottom. So I'm going to go up to get to the bottom. And I have all of my information right here. The minimum, now the minimum and the maximum are going to be easy just by looking at your data values. Oopsies, I didn't mean to write Q2 right there. And that doesn't even look like a Q. I'm writing like up and down because the screen is right here. So my writing is kind of weird. Minimum and what's that, Q3 and then maximum. And so I don't even need my calculator to see the maximum is 12 because the minimum and the maximum are right there on a frequency table. But it's going to give you everything anyways. So the minimum is 1, Q1 is 3, the median is 8, Q3 is 9, and then the maximum is 12. Perfect, easy peasy. Okay, so if the question says, what is the 25th percentile? What is the the 50th percentile and so forth? We already calculated those. That's the same thing. Remember, quartile is the quartile 1's the 25th. The middle is 50th, 50% way through. Third quarter, 75% way through. So it's the 75th quartile, maximum 100 and so forth. But what if the number isn't in that specific spot? Like, what if I want to know what the 44th percentile is or the 82nd percentile? Those don't get special names. Only the 25th, 50th, and 75th get special names. And so we can find out the kth percentile. That just means like some mystery percent, K percent, by using this formula down here. So it says right here, the definition is K is the percentile that we're trying to find. So that's going to be given. N is the total number of data values. N is going to be the total number of data values until you finish this course. So N is always the total number of numbers that we're talking about. K is a percentile. And then we're going to plug those two into this formula right here. We're going to calculate I, which is the position, and then we're just going to count to that position. So here I did, since there's 29, I did make sure to put these in number order because that would take forever. But the first thing you need to do is put your numbers in number order. And it's asking for the 70th percentile. So we have two problems for the same one. So in other words, I need to know which number is like 70th on this, or in the 70th percent of this list. If it was halfway, I would just count halfway. That one's easy, but 70, where does that fall? So we are going to figure out what spot that's in by calculating I. So in this problem, for A, K is 70 because it says so. And then N for both problems, N is 29. Okay, so we're going to say 70 times 29 plus 1 over 100. Put that into your calculator. Throw in some parentheses. 70, oopsies, get out of the list from before. 70 times, now I could put 20 plus 1, but I also know it's 21. So I can just put 21 in my calculator, divided by 100, and I get 14.7. I can't round, I can round. I can't go to a decimal place of like, okay, let's think about this. If everyone lined up in line, you're first in line, you're second in line, you're third in line, nobody says you're 14.7th in line, right? Like, so what we're gonna do is just always round down. So when we have this right here, we'll just put a little note, always round down. So don't worry about what rounding tells you to do. We just want to go to 14. So I'm going to go to my list and I'm going to count to 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And there we have it. We have our number that is 40th on this list. I mean, 14th. It's the 70th percentile. Okay, you know what? I'm like, that does not look right. Are you yelling at me yet? I can't hear you because I'm in the computer. No, it's not 20 plus 1. What am I talking about? It literally says 29 right there. My goodness gracious. Okay, I caught it. You don't have to email me. I caught my mistake. Let's try this again with the actual number of 29. I apologize. The hardest thing is when you're sitting there like, where did the 20 come from? And you can't ask me because I'm stuck in my computer. Okay, try this again. 29, because the formula says N, and I just randomly wrote the wrong number. Okay, try this again. So 70 times, now instead of 29 plus 1, I'm just going to type in 30 divided by 100, and I get a much better number, 21. The reason I say much better is because I was sitting here looking at that, and that 42 does not, that looks like it's more like halfway. It doesn't look like it's 70, so, okay, fixed. Anyways, let's just go. We're going to count to 21. We don't even need to worry about rounding. We're going to count to 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Golly, is that another typo? Luckily, it didn't affect anything. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So the answer is, so what we're looking for is the 21st, that's the index or the position. And so the number that's the 21st position is the 70th percentile. So 70th percentile means this number is 70% of the way through the list. Again, it's a lot more complicated than just the median, because the median is 50%. 50% means halfway. That's a lot easier just to look at and say, this is where half is. It's a lot harder to look at and say, this is where 70 is. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's just not make any typos this time. How's that? So we're gonna do it again with B. And we have the same K because, oh no, we have the same N. We have the same N because we're talking about 29 numbers still, so that's the same. And then K this time is going to be 83 because it's the 83rd percentile. And we're going to divide this by 100. This time we should get a decimal. Okay, so we have 83 times 30, 29 plus 1 is 30, divided by 100 is 24.9. And again, we want to round down. So we're looking for the number that is 24th. Whoops, I don't want to put a box around it because that's not our answer. The 24th position. I'm going to continue counting. We know there's 21, 22, 23, 24. So 71 is the answer to what's the 83rd percentile. Okay, so it's supposed to be a simple formula. You just plug it in and count. Obviously, I made a mistake, so then plugging in and counting kind of messed up, but hey, what are we gonna do? Okay, now we're going to actually be able to calculate outliers. So the way we're going to calculate outliers is by using the IQR, which is the interquartile range, and that's going to just be the middle half of our data. So what we're getting ready to do is to draw a box plot. I've talked about this above. We have our 4 chunks, which is going to be using 5 numbers to determine the start, the first quarter, the middle, the second quarter, and the end. And what we have in the middle here, this is our IQR. It's everything from Q1, or it's that distance from Q1 to Q3. So to calculate the IQR, since it's that distance, we're just going to subtract Q1 minus Q3. And then the definition of an outlier is stuff that falls more than 1.5 times the IQR above quartile 3. So I'll do 1.5 times the IQR and I'll add it to quartile 3. Or 1.5 times the IQR below or subtracted from quartile 1. Put a flag here, something in your notes. This is on the unit project. And people miss it all the time. And the reason they miss it isn't because they don't know how to do it, it's because they don't do it. I say, this is the question. I'll tell you the question already. Are there any outliers? Show your calculations. That's the question. So you're going to take the numbers and you're going to calculate if there's any outliers and you're going to say yes or no. If you say yes or no and you don't do any work, then you get a 0. If you don't say anything, for some reason, like half the people just, it's like at the bottom of the page, are just like, oh, I'm not going to do that one. You don't say anything, you're going to get a 0 also. So it's very simple to calculate once you get the hang of it. And so just make sure to put a little note here to keep this formula. You don't need to memorize anything in this class. You don't need to memorize any formulas. You just need to know where they are in your notes. That's it. Okay, so let's look at this right here. Here is our list of numbers. So first off, I need the IQR. The IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So I am, this is already a number order. I could put it in, yeah, I'll put it in my calculator. I love my calculator so much. I'm just going to put it in. I'm going to clear out all the old data from before, and I'm going to hit 5, 12, 14, 19, 21, 25, 29, and 33. Throw that in. I mean, this was a short list. I probably could have done it pretty fast, but why? L1, no frequency, so the frequency is 1, not L1, the frequency is 1. And I get right here, I don't need the whole 5-number summary. I just need Q1 and Q3. So I get 27 minus 13. That's the LQR. I mean, that's the Q1 and Q3 from my calculator. So 27 minus 13 is 14. The IQR is 14. Okay. Find any outliers. So I know Q1, I know Q3, I know the IQR. So the outliers are going to be, here's the formula. I'll just leave it right there. It's going to be Q1. So this is to find any outliers. Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. And it's going to be Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So I already know Q1 is 13. I already know Q3 is 27. And I know the IQR is 14. So I just have to put all of this into my calculator to find out my upper and lower fence. And then I'll show you what we're going to do with that. So 13 minus 1.5 times 14 is -8. And sometimes people are like, well, negative isn't this statistics? Why is there a negative? We're subtracting. Anytime you subtract, you might get a negative. Oh, well, it's just going to mean there's no lower outliers. That's it. No big deal. All right, try it again. We're going to do 27 minus, oh, no, it's not, it's plus. 27 plus 1.5 times 14, which is 48. Those are not the outliers. Those are our fences. And so what we're saying on this list here, are there any numbers smaller than -8? No, 5 is the smallest numbers. Are there any numbers bigger than 48? No, 33 is the biggest number. So the answer is no outliers. That's why you have to show your work on the project, because there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I could flip a coin and say yes or no. Doesn't mean it's right. You show me all that work and you show me why the answer is no, full credit. Okay, we're going to do this again. So just as a reminder, in case you didn't know where that smaller or bigger from, it says anything that's more than that. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to underline. Anything that's above Q1 or below Q2. So that means bigger, smaller. Did I just say that wrong? Anything that's above Q3 or below Q1 is what I meant to say. Okay, let's make a couple box plots and then we'll be done with this section. So to make a box plot, we need, I've drawn a few so far and we're going to put it all together. We need the 5-number summary. Actually, that's the main thing. We need the 5-number summary. We're going to use the 5-number summary to draw the box plot, and we're going to use the 5-number summary to help us with outliers. Calculator time. All right, let's get that list plugged in, clear my old list. And this is not in number order. I don't care because I'm using my calculator, but I do want to note that I'm not just going to look at my list and say, oh, this is the minimum and this is the maximum like I did before, because they're not in number order. Okay, so I got my list put in, go to stat, 1 variable stats. This is not a frequency table, so everything's in L1. Go hit up until I get to my 5-number summary. And I'm not even going to write it out this time. I'm just going to go straight to my box plot. So my box plot, take my line, cut it in. Now you can make this more like to scale if you want. I don't care. You could also just cut it literally in half a couple times. You see the box in the middle, that's why it's called a box plot. All right, we're going to write these numbers in order from left to right because this line that I drew is just a number line. So the minimum, the smallest number is 21. Q1 is 30. The median is 57. Q3 is 71. The maximum is 93. So you don't have to write this every time, but I'm just going to write it here since it's the first one. We had our minimum Q1, our median, Q3, and the maximum. Great, got our box plot, check. Now we want to look for any outliers. Outliers needs the IQR. So I think what happened is I made these spaces because if I was writing like on a regular piece of paper, I would totally could write in this space, but since I'm writing on my computer, I'm writing really big. Okay, the IQR from above, Q3 minus Q1, 71 minus 30, which is 41. Cool. So now I'm going to take Q1 minus 1.5 times 41. And I'm going to do Q3 plus 1.5 times 41. Why did I write Q's when I already know those numbers? Q1 is 30 and Q3 is 71. Okay. Plug it in. 30 minus 1.5 times 41 is really small. Negative 35. The IQR is really big. It's not negative 35, it's negative 31.5. That's okay. And then doing this again, we have, instead of 30, we have 71 plus 1.5 times 41, and I get 132.5. Yikes, that's huge. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm just making observations because I know my smallest number is 21. There's nothing negative, so there's no outliers that are smaller than on the small side. And I know there's the maximum is 93. So there's nothing bigger than 132. So there's no outliers. I'm pretty sure the next one has outliers, so you'll see what I mean. What's the point of keep getting no every time? Okay, one more. We're going to make a box plot. My 5-number summary. I don't have it yet, but that's where I'm going to put it. So now I'm going to put my numbers in. Now, just looking at this, I do see a number that seems a little bit off. So I kind of have a feeling of at least one outlier. It doesn't mean it's an outlier. It doesn't mean it's the only outlier. It just means I kind of see a 12 on there that seems really small. So let's see what happens. Let's type all these numbers in. 43. Let's try this again. 43, 51, 62. If I type these in too fast, because I do it all the time, just pause the video so you can type your lists in. Make sure you're doing it along with me. Okay, so I have 14 numbers. It says the number of bags of rice produced in 25 days by a company is listed below. It doesn't say that it had to be 25 pieces of data. They're just telling you that that's how this rice was collected. So the fact that I only have 14 numbers, that doesn't mean anything. Okay, go to my stat. One variable stats, data is an L1, frequency is 1. Tells me right there, N is 14, so that's right. Okay, so I'm going to write down my numbers. Minimum is 12. That's really small. That's okay. Q1 is 63. The median is 70.5. Q3 is 80. And my maximum is 85. So as you can see, the box plot is super easy to calculate or to make because the calculator does it all, right? Like you just have to type it in your calculator, it gives you all the numbers. Okay, outliers are a little harder. So first I need the IQR. I am going to write some of this stuff on here. Change to red. So there's my Q1 and there's my Q3. So when I do my calculations, my IQR is going to be 80 minus 63, which is 17. Okay, finding my outliers. Very suspicious about the 12, but I'm curious to see if there's any others as well. So I'm going to do Q1 minus, wait, I know Q1. I'm literally flipping my pencil upside down like this is a real pencil. Okay, got my eraser. Okay, Q1, so 63 minus 1.5 times 17, and 80 plus 1.5 times 17. I'm going to plug that in. 63, all right, my Q1 minus 1.5 times my 17, the IQR, and I get 37.5. That's where anything smaller than that is going to be an outlier. So that 12 is for sure. Let's see, we'll look at the numbers to see if there's any more. And then 80 plus 1.5 times 17 is 105.5. So I'm looking for numbers that are smaller than that guy or bigger than that guy. Okay, so looking at my list, I don't want to look at my 5-number summary because that only has a few numbers. Now I could look at it enough to say, well, 85 is the max. So there's no 3-digit numbers on this list. There's nothing bigger than 105. So that's out. But 37.5, my minimum's 12. 12 is definitely smaller. Are there any other numbers smaller than that? Are there any numbers in the 30s or 20s? And I'm looking through this whole list and I don't see any. So 12 is our outlier. I had a guess. I don't know if you had the same guess at the beginning. I had a guess that 12 was an outlier, but that doesn't prove it. This right here proves it. So when you're showing your work, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's it for the second section, 2.6b, which is on quartiles and box plots. When you come back in the next video, we're going to talk about standard deviation. All right, email me if you have any questions. Thanks, bye.